City Council on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020 at 5 p.m. Could we have roll call, please?
Mayor Miles,
Here.
Vice Mayor Lingenfelter,
Here.
Councilmember Mello Keener is excused, Councilmember Nelson is excused, Councilmember Scott Staley,
Present.
Councilmember Watkins is excused, Councilmember Waite.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Tonight, could we please stand for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Since we do not have the person here for the invocation, let's honor this moment with a moment of silence. Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our great flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The council may go into executive session for legal counsel in accordance with ARS 431.03A3 to discuss any agenda item. The following items may be discussed, considered, and decisions made relating thereto. Our first order of business tonight is a really joyful one, and that is we are going to recognize the awards that are being given for our logo creators and the contest winners for the 2020 census. This effort to count every person in our city is a major one that our city staff has been involved in, our city council, all of us care that every person is counted because every person matters and everyone should be, not just because it brings financial support to the city. It's critical for that, for our police and our fire and our parks, but also just to be recognized as a beautiful member of this community. So we're really thrilled that all these efforts were made to enter this contest, and we're going to recognize them tonight. And I'm going to come down and Vice Mayor is going to hold these certificates, and we'll be handing these certificates to the winners as I call them. And then I'd like to ask people, Annie, do we want them just to stand at the side and then I'll come up for a group photo at the end? Okay. And I would ask council if you would like to come down and join and kind of create a receiving line for these winners. And also our city clerk is going to show the award-winning, they're the posters and logos on the screen as we go through this. So thank you for arranging that. Okay, let's go down and do this. This is one of the really fun city councils.
Testing.
Thank you. Okay, now I would like to thank Mrs. Fortrell and the Lee Williams Graphic Arts Program students for their participation. And thank you to the parents for being here and making sure that event was very special. Excellent. I'm going to wait just a minute while everyone can leave. But she's fine now, she says. Okay. Okay, next we have call to the public. Those wishing to address the council should fill out request forms in advance. Action taken as a result of public comments will be limited to directing staff to study the matter or rescheduling the matter for consideration and decision at a later time. Comments from the public will be restricted to items not on the agenda, with the exception of those on the consent agenda. There will be no comments allowed that advertise for a particular person or group. Comments should be limited to no longer than 3 minutes. We do have one person signed up for call to the public. Okay, let's see, this is Frank Marcus. Would you like to come up and address the council?
Hi, everybody. My name is Frank Marcus. I moved to Kingman in 2017. I think it was middle of June. And I live at 3475 Rosewood Street. When I moved there, the Suddenlink comes to my house and they offer me the internet. And I said, yeah, for sure, I need that. So we agreed that I have a fast internet for $45 a month. So the first month was 45, second month was 55, third month 55, fourth month jumped 149, and then 250, and so on. So in 6 months, I paid almost $1,200. The reason why I was paying that much, because when the fourth bill that I got, they said because I'm using too much. I said, I thought you told me this is unlimited. So we agreed that I'm gonna pay $65 the fourth month if I do auto pay. So I gave them my credit card. I agree on that. I said, at least I will have a peace of mind. So when I gave them the credit card, that's what happened. They start charging my credit card without my knowledge. And at the end, when I found out that how much they are charging me, 250, 150, whatever, I called them. I said, what's going on? Oh, they goes, you were late. I said, what do you mean I was late? This is auto pay. Oh, they didn't pay us. What do you mean? Why didn't you call me? I didn't know about that. So I called them. There was no result, so I disconnected. And then I found out there was another company called Datamax. So I'm paying $45. The reason why I'm bringing this issue, I heard a lot of people are complaining about the Sutherland. So I wish you guys could do something about it. Either bring another company here, at least to have competition to help us, or to have a right to sue those people to get our money back, because that's not fair to charge my credit card. And I have all the bills here, because this is since 2017, you know. So that was my concern, because I called them, like I said, and they say, yeah, this is right bill. Wow. So, but I don't know what to do with it. So this issue, I was taught to bring it to you guys, because you are in charge here, and I'm part of Kingman now, resident here, and I have to have the right to do something, because I hate to see people stealing my money for nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marcus.
Do you want
And-
my bills to prove that, or just?
No, that's not necessary, but I would ask Manager Fogg, and I know that we have had Suddenlink at our recent Tri-City Council meeting, and I think we need to make sure that they are scheduled again, and maybe not the next one, but after that. I think that the whole group there was wanting to talk to them again, so let's make sure that gets on the agenda.
Yep.
Okay. We'll move on. Pardon? Thank you. Okay, the next order of business is the consent agenda. All matters listed here are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Would any of the council members care to remove an item from the consent agenda?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to remove item C.
Item C. Any other items? I'd like to remove item H. And I would entertain a motion for consent agenda items
D.
A, B, and D through G.
Do you mind if we remove items E
Oh,
and F?
okay. I'm sorry, I missed you.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Okay, then I would entertain a motion for A, B, D, and G.
So made.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items A, B, D, and G. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Item C, procurement code update. Staff has completed an update to the procurement code. Resolution 5259 declares the procurement code a public document. The adoption of Ordinance 1894 enacts the procurement code into law. Staff recommends approval. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had this item removed. I had been in contact with Attorney Cooper specifically regarding the section where we're changing the fact that technology procurements are going to be exempt from the competition. And I wanted to make sure that if that was going to be the case, that we had some sort of a protection for maximum competition, that some sort of a sole brand determination was going to be recorded. And it's not a sole source because there's absolutely more than one place that sells Dell or some sort of technology, different brands of technology. So some sort of a memo that would say, you know, we're going to be going with this sole brand, but within that brand, we're going to be maximizing competition with all the vendors that sell that brand. So, and Mr. Cooper said that that's basically covered. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And when we drafted the original document, we did have a section called the maximum practical competition, which is one of those things to look at to make sure we're getting the best deal for the city of Kingman overall, regardless of what the product is. And all of the exceptions that we have listed require written determinations in one form or another for finance to approve it. And I would like to just point out that finance has been very diligent in their requiring of that documentation and making sure that it covers all of the needs and making sure it justifies the decisions that the individual departments are making when they do these purchases. And what the departments generally do is they'll look like if there's something that's a specific thing that we're looking for, they'll look across the various outlets, you know, state contract prices, co-ops, or even just, you know, directly calling those individuals to see what kind of best deal that we can get for the city. So it seems like we pretty much covered that already.
And that was really my hope, was if we're going to make a sole brand determination as far as technology, that a staff member wouldn't be able to just steer all of that business to one vendor, that cost would still be a component, that we would get the best price for that brand of equipment.
Yes, sir.
Technology.
And
So
finance is, like I say, pretty
appreciate
much
that.
on top of that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Motion to approve item C.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve item C, procurement code update. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any discussion? Ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, E, granting of electric easement across portions of Surbat Cliffs Golf Course. Unisource Energy Services, Inc. is presently engineering a project to upgrade and expand their electric facilities in this vicinity. The easement request is part of Phase 4 of the final phase. The project will be completed in 2020. Staff recommends approval. Councilman Wade.
Thank you. I just had a quick clarifying question. I'm sure you'll be able to answer it. And
I
then
hope
we'll
so.
just move on. But So the language in the summary, I read through the proposal, and it appears as though the only construction that will be done will be an underground three-phase distribution line. And it suggests why. And it also suggests that this request is part of Phase 4, which is the final phase. So
Yep.
just to be clear, it's not as though a structure is going to be, placed in front of anything or anything obscuring anyone's view or anything like that. This is
Correct.
just the underground. Okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify because it seemed from the summary it wasn't. It implied that that was what it was, but I
Yeah.
just wasn't sure.
Yeah, the golf course and the residents, we've been doing some upgrades, or we haven't, but we've, I guess, helped our Unisource folks make upgrades across the course and around the course, and it's just part of that.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks. I had no further questions.
Would you like to make a motion?
I would. I'd like to make a motion that we approve item E.
Is there a second?
Second?
There's a motion is second to approve item E, granting electric easement across portions of Surback Cliffs Golf Course. Is there any further discussion? I'll get the sequence right this time. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. KPD front lobby renovation change order. The Kingman Police Department has been working on front office renovations to expand customer service windows and enhance department personnel safety. Recently, it was discovered that necessary renovations to the front counter were not covered under the original bid. The change order will also require an extension on the work project as April 3rd, 2020 for final completion, and staff recommends approval. Counselor.
Thank you. I just had another clarifying question for this. So the summary suggests that it was recently discovered that necessary renovations to the front counter are being proposed. And I'm wondering if there was going to be a demolition of the front counter regardless of the request to put a solid surface in that helps to disinfect or eliminate exposure to department personnel and customers. So I'm wondering if the demolition was going to happen regardless and we just have to put a new counter up there, or if we're just doing it for the purpose of having a cleaner counter.
Mayor and Councilmember Wade, the demolition is included, the oversight was in the reconstruction of the countertops and ensuring that we had a solid cleaning surface that our people would be able to utilize. So this project has been ongoing for, unfortunately, over a year and a half. It's had some extensive delays, and we're finally at the ending stages when that was discovered.
Okay, so it was it sort of an oversight that it wasn't included in the original plan?
Yes, sir.
And the front counter was going to be demolished regardless?
Correct. We're actually making it so that there'll be 2 customer service windows, because it's quite often we have more than one individual in the lobby. We'll be able to provide better customer service.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that the necessity wasn't just a cleaner service, that the necessity was that it was being demolished anyway, and we had to put one in, and that it was just an oversight that we didn't include it in the original bid or
Right. It wouldn't help us for security if we didn't have the counter just like
Right.
it does.
Right, okay, thank you, that's the only question I had.
Thank you, sir.
Would you like to make a motion, Counselor?
Yes, I will make a motion that we approve item F.
Second?
There's a motion is second to approve the KPD front lobby renovation change order, item F. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. Acceptance of a grant of public sewer line easement for the Kingman Veterans Villas project. The Kingman Veterans Villa is located at the southwest corner of Wallapai Mountain Road and Jackson Street on parcel 321-06086. The nearest available sewer line at an elevation capable of accepting gravity sewage flows from this site is located at Van Buren Street, just north of Wallapai Mountain Road. The owner of parcel 321070077 has agreed to provide an easement for the sewer line, and staff recommends approval. And I brought this forth really to highlight the progress that is being made toward the building and construction of the veterans villas. I think many of us know that this is I think it's 49 unit housing for homeless veterans, and it's going to be, I think, a great asset to this community. I did notice that in this easement, I think there's a word Mojave that needs to be changed to move. That would be the only comment I would make prior to signing it. But I really am glad to see that all of this progress is coming together. I expect that we will be seeing groundbreaking later this summer. That's our hope. So with that, I would move to make a motion that we accept item H, acceptance of a grant of public sewer line easement for the Kingman Veterans Villas project.
I move that we approve item H.
Okay, I made that motion.
Oh, you made that. I'm
You
sorry.
can
I
second it.
second that.
There's a motion and
I'm
a
sorry,
second to
Mayor.
approve. We all want to approve this one.
I'm
so-
sorry. I was trying to be helpful.
No. So approve item H. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. Next order of business, old business, resolution. Now we get to a very serious topic. Resolution number 5262, proposing a permanent base adjustment to the 1979-80 base expenditure limitation of the City of Kingman. On February 18th, 2020, staff presented council with voter approval rating history, historical adopted budget expenditures, and state-imposed limitations, projected growth in revenues through fiscal year 2030, base adjustment options, and other Arizona City comments and alternatives operated under. At the meeting's conclusion, council gave direction to move forward with the next steps necessary in order to take permanent base adjustment to the voters in the primary election on August 4th, 2020, and staff recommends approval. Good evening, Director Moline.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. So the next steps are bringing a resolution to you for approval so that we can move forward with our election process. So the resolution in front of you basically states that permanent base adjustment is an option, that we, as the council, or you as the council, sorry for that, are electing to that option, and then also then taking that to the voters at the primary election in August. Biggest piece of that resolution, though, other than just it being a permanent base adjustment, is the amount that we are going to request the voters to approve us adjust that base by. And so the resolution includes to adjust our base by $5 million, which would take it to $9,426,000 and some change. And I just wanted to make sure that the council is comfortable with that. We did talk about those figures, and I wanted to be sure that I showed you, and this is in your packets as well, what that looks like. And so using our existing growth, our 5% growth option, or the other option, the $9,426,000 leaves enough flexibility as we move into the future years. So that would be staff's recommendation, and that is what is included in Resolution 5262.
Thank you. Are there any questions? If I could, please.
Thank you. I think this is great. I do believe that the education is still an obstacle because this is complicated. And actually, this is directed to Manager Foggin. If there was a way that we could put together a team the way we did with the census, so that we could just give presentations on what home rule is to nonprofit groups like Rotary and Kiwanis, so that people are armed with some solid information about what they're voting for, I think that could really help this time around, because last time it was so close. You guys have done a great job with the census, so if we could just flip that to home rule and then put it out there that we'd come, and help, that'd be great.
Yeah, and we will take that approach. We're working, talking about what would a video look like, how can we take this message make it so that it's understandable, that
Right.
everybody feels like they're comfortable supporting that. Obviously, once you take a vote on it, our role will then be factual only.
Sure.
And we will be looking for any help that we can get. And anybody who wants to talk about it, at least the facts, we will have a team of folks that are prepared to do exactly what you're talking about. We'll have information, social media related, video related, and on the website as well. So appreciate that.
Good.
We totally agree with that.
Good. And this is going to go on the in the August primary.
Yes.
So we really want to hit that hard in June and July.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Tina.
Don't forget about the coloring competition.
You know, if I could figure out a way to make that work, I would do it. Color the graph.
Yeah.
I would just say that this is a responsible move of the city, and it's clearly in the best interest of the city, so I wholeheartedly support this, absolutely. Thank you for all of the work that you've done.
Thank you.
Any other comments? I also add my thanks. This is, I think it's important for everyone in Kingman to know the importance of this, and I know that after we vote, you can't advocate, but I think you could now. Could you share a little bit about the consequences if this does not pass?
Absolutely. I wish I had my slide back up, but if permanent base doesn't pass in at this election, we still have our home rule in effect until fiscal year 23, which would mean that then we'd have to go still back out in 22. And if it did not pass in fiscal year 22, we would end up having to cut more than $50 million from our budget. And that means possibly all of our enterprise funds, capital projects, a large portion of general funds. It's a very significant impact on our budget.
Thank you. Please, go ahead.
I just want to clarify. We cut 50 million. That doesn't mean we stop collecting $50 million worth. That just means that money goes and sits there and cannot be spent. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah, because I think sometimes people think, oh, good, it'll force them to cut, and they don't realize that means cut police, cut fire, cut really important things, and they will not see that cut. It'll just sit there.
So
Correct?
that's a great point, and thank you for bringing that up. It has nothing to do with the revenues that we collect. You're absolutely right. It has to do with the programs that we can spend our money on, providing the services and programs that we're currently providing, and whether or not we're still able to do that.
Right.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And that is why it's called an expenditure limitation.
That's right.
And I think this was initiated in the 80s
1980.
by a citizen initiative.
Madam Mayor, may I also make one more clarification with Tina while she's up there?
Please, Vice Mayor.
If you could, right now, as it stands, because of what's going on at the state level, the PSPRS, that is eroding basically all the funds that we can spend on anything else right now. Is that correct?
That
Can you
is
talk
also-
about that a little bit? I mean, even if we were to choose not to do this, the way we're set up right now, that's going to continue to erode the resources that we have to spend on everything else that the city does as far as public services. Is that
Correct.
correct?
So we know that our PSPRS unfunded liability is over $30 million, and we know that we've received direction from you that we want to pay that down. In order for us to pay that down, unfortunately, that payment is included in our expenditures. We do not get to exclude that. So whatever we dedicate towards our PSPRS unfunded liability takes away from another program or service as the legislation is currently written.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no more comments or questions, then thank you very much, and I would entertain a motion regarding resolution number 5262.
I just have I have another question.
For Director Moline?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I need my steps anyway.
So the resolution suggests, or has in bold, it says, shall the expenditure base of the city of Kingman be permanently adjusted by $5 million? Is that how it's going to present on the ballot?
Yes.
And is that the exact wording?
So it's a great question, and yes, the resolution that will be published in the publicity pamphlet will look like this.
And will there be, like, I know that some of those ballot measures have sort of an explanation, or like a brief explanation attached. Will there be one for this?
So we're also required to provide a summary analysis,
Right.
and it will provide the amount that we plan to expend and what this will allow us to expend going forward. So yes, there will be a summary analysis.
Okay. And does Carl write that, or do we know who's
Yeah,
in
so
ch-
I actually draft that and send it to
Oh,
the
okay.
Auditor General for their review and comments. They make any sort of revisions, and that'll happen in the next few weeks.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Good questions. Okay, at this point, I would entertain a motion regarding resolution number 5262.
I move that we approve Resolution 5262.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 5262 to propose a permanent base adjustment to the 1979-80 base expenditure limitation of the city of Kingman. Is there any further discussion? Then I would ask for all in favor to say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. New business, ordinance number 1895, four-year mayor term. Ordinance number 1895 modifies the City Code, Chapter 2, Article 2, Section 219A, the term of office of mayor from 2 years to 4 years, and allows for the change to be placed on the primary election ballot for a vote of the qualified electors of the city to approve this change, and staff recommends approval. Manager
Yes, we do. That's really it. We looking at kind of best practices across the state and also kind of across the country. There are only a few municipalities in our state that currently have 2-year rotations for mayor. We looking at best practices. What we end up with is we have a little less with a 2-year rotation. We have elected one of our main elected folks who are constantly kind of in campaign mode. We want to build stability in that position, and as our sister cities within the county, they are on a 4-year rotation for their mayor. It just makes sense for us to transition to a better practice than the every 2 years. And frankly, that's just a hardship for people. Every 2 years is just hard to run for election. And so that's why we're recommending it as just as a best practice. And there's fewer and fewer communities that have the 2-year rotation, cost and stability being a large part of that. And just before anybody can ask, this doesn't affect the mayor, current sitting mayor, even if and when she may be elected this year, and it doesn't go into effect until 2022. So just everybody's clear on that.
Ready to ask, but
Yep.
thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions or comments about this issue? Well, I guess I will just add that I think this is a good idea, even though it does not affect me running for office this time. But in the office of mayor, there's a lot of work that's done locally and also with the League of Cities and Towns and at the state level. And to create the network and to get really familiar and understand the issues and be effective in people knowing you also and having a voice that is really compelling for the city of Kingman does take some time.
Yep.
And so I think this would give any future mayors more time to carry out those responsibilities more effectively
Yeah, Mayor.
without havy to
yeah.
campaign every
Yeah,
every
so I would just point out that I think that kind of our position as a city has been a little bit eroded by the fact we've had 2-year rotations with effect with our activity with the League of Cities, where we've watched Bullhead and Lake Havasu. Their mayors have been actively involved and been fairly influential in pushing legislation that helps cities. And I don't think we've been as effective because of that quick turnover. And so that's kind of our hope, is that opportunity to have more influence with the league and what's happening, you know, that our voice is heard is part of that. So
Yes, I think it is being heard now,
Yeah.
but it is true that it takes time
Yep.
to really get involved with committee work at the league. So, yes, Counselor Staley.
I'd just like to comment that I do fully support this measure. Our mayor is better served spending time representing our city and advocating for our city instead of splitting that time every other year, campaigning and running for office, which does take an immense amount of time as well. And aside from that, the work that you've done in water, to see that turn over to somebody else, we would lose all of that momentum and that knowledge that's been built up over time. So we absolutely do need to have somebody there that for a long time, for at least 4 years, to network and to build those relationships and really to understand what the issues are at our city because they are so complex. So you have my full support on this. Well,
Thank you.
it's not for you, but the mayor, because
Thank
it is
you.
hard to campaign.
And we just want to make sure that everybody realizes that this will be a ballot measure, so.
It will be a ballot
Yeah.
measure. Yes. Our job tonight is to put it on the ballot. And so I would entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 1895 for a 4-year term for the mayor.
Madam Mayor, since I'm outgoing, I will recommend approval of ordinance number 1895.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 1895 for a 4-year term for the mayor, starting in 2022. Is there any further discussion? Then all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Department reports. Our first report tonight is weed abatement update.
Yay. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice
Mayor,
Mayor.
can we
members
just
of
make
council.
one pause? We are no longer in a quorum, and I would suggest we pause until we have a quorum.
Oh, I didn't see that.
It's okay.
Okay, though these are not action items.
Well, just technically, the meeting can't proceed. I know I'm being finicky.
Just best to wait for the counselor to come back, vice mayor to come back, sorry.
And to stress out the,
You want to bring up your stuff while you were waiting?
Well, once they do it, automatically starts.
Oh, okay, well, don't do it then.
7th inning stretch.
Okay, sorry. I'm like, you can bring it up.
It's instant.
Okay.
I know it's just a report.
Okay, let us continue. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, staff. Chris Young, Community Development, to report on a proposed weed management campaign that came from the abatement team. So I have a short video and a short PowerPoint to present. Hi, my name is Chris Young. I'm the Community Development Manager for the City of Kingman. Today I want to talk to you about city ordinances that relate to the resident responsibilities for the removal of weeds. The ordinance has been in effect for almost 20 years. We are taking time to educate the community of their responsibility. Weeds can be Certainly not Oscar-worthy, but they tell me it will do. So the weed management, it's a proactive approach in a abatement with a team strategy. The focal points are to concentrate on community beautification, focus on rights-of-ways along main arterials, focus on alleys, proactively target these areas for weed control efforts, and it's a combination program. It's a proactive program in certain areas along with our reactive current complaint-based program. This slide actually isn't as good as the one that was on the video. This has been updated since. We thought that the slide to the right really was confusing, so the one you saw in the video will actually be more of the brochure that we're going to compile for not only internal staff but external staff or external customers. So, and again, this is one of our focal points is the alleys. A lot of times it goes missed because people don't drive the alleys, but we drive the alleys. And people just are really not sure whose responsibility it is because typically it grows on the outside of the fence line or the wall line. So through public service announcements and public outreach regarding the responsibility of property owners to maintain these areas per City Code 7165, plus a current program indicates a 85% compliance rate where most of the customers were apologetic because they simply did not know the law. We were actually surprised on that. We captured a lot of data during the reactive complaint-based weed program this year, which is still ongoing, and 85% was pretty amazing. And people were simply, I didn't know that was my responsibility. So that's what really prompted us to move forward with this campaign. And also need to educate the public regarding vast open spaces and drainage channels and the need to keep vegetation growth for dust and flow control. We received a tremendous amount of complaints. I think tremendous is maybe a strong word, but a large amount of complaints in areas that, such as this photograph depicts, where it's wide open, vast areas, and drainage flows and dust are important, all right? And we get in there and start removing weeds. The water picks up velocity and starts eroding, and also the dust, and then we get the dust complaints. And this really represents a stronger picture, I believe. This is just north of the Home Depot, where this is a major drainage channel that comes under the road under Stockton Hill. And you can see all the erosion that has occurred already because of lack of weeds or bank stability. So it's an important thing that people don't realize. So internal staff, we have to be proactive and participate with all field personnel that are out there on a daily basis to report back. And we certainly need to focus on some internal training, some information sharing so that all employees are aware of the city code, the process, and are delivering the same message. That's a consistent approach. And we think that brochure will also help internal staff. So people answer shop. They call and they get one answer. They call a different department. And this way we can ensure that they're getting a consistent report. So some of those program statistics through the analysis of the reactive complaint-based program, only 15% were non-compliant. Those we have to enforce through. We had an estimated of 60 to 90 days per case to manage the weed abatement at an estimated cost of about $250 per case, and that's not including the cost of abatement. So it could be an expensive program. The proactive program, we would like to evaluate the potential impacts or challenges such as budgetary items, resources required, staff hours, and impact to legal and our court system if we start a proactive campaign. So we feel that a combination program of proactively concentrating and focusing on these primary areas and let the reactive program continue, that we could get a good handle on it. Are there any questions?
I'm wondering where narrowed down what is the native plant, what is an open space that should be untouched in order to keep problems at bay. Like that one had a bunch of cholla and things that are native. And then the other picture had just tumbleweeds, which are not native. Because some people would look at that and they wouldn't see a difference between one or the other.
That's correct. And we do have a list of the native species that can't be touched, so that people, when they call up and say, hey, I want to abate some weeds, we can provide that information. The tumbleweeds is the primary concern. In that picture of the eroded bank, and again, if you go out and you take all that tumbleweed out of there, the bank's going to continue to erode, and it's getting pretty close to the parking lot as it is. So the more stability that we can create, and you get people in there tromping around and abating weeds, then it's just going to exacerbate the situation.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, well, you think it would live in the desert?
I don't think so, but that was erosion control that
So
went
just
awry.
on the drainage, drainage with the amount of drainage that's going through our community, and these, that's one, one of probably 100 different drainage type ways. Obviously, what we're doing is trying to move forward with a much more proactive drainage system. But what's interesting about that drainage way right there, for as an example, that drainage way runs quite a ways, and what we've seen with the monsoons is that drainage way could change itself by 20, 30 feet if it so chose to do. And so as far as the ability to do that across the community, it just would be so overwhelming. What we're trying to do is get ahead of that and try to keep water retained, so that and recharged, so that those banks, we don't have large amounts of water running down them and changing the topography of those areas. So that's really the challenge. But as far as like anything native in this country does what it can to leave soil where it is, but even the native stuff is somewhat pressed to be able to do that.
No, I think that getting ahead of it and with the recharge and the basin, so the water is contained, is a better approach.
You could, if I may, you could hydroseed those areas. If once they have a hold of the water that runs through, you could hydroseed it with all the native plants, and it would bring back growth, and it would keep that from getting worse. So that is something that
Once the water is controlled,
yes,
somewhat up.
yeah.
And you would know. Well, something to consider, seriously.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next report.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, it's an honor to be here tonight and provide you an overview of our activity and our annual report from 2019. Each of you have been provided with a more detailed book that covers all different aspects. And tonight I just wanted to provide a brief overview of some of the challenges we experienced over the past year, as well as the accomplishments that we were able to achieve. From our statistical data, if you may recall, if you've read the annual report, some of our challenges we had were directly related to staffing, and that has an impact on our ability to be proactive versus reactive, as was just discussed with the weed abatement. So some of the statistical data that you'll see in the report are a result, and the declines in there are a result that the officers have not had the ability, the free time, to be more proactive in the community. So those are things that we are actively addressing, and we'll touch on that in just a little bit. But primarily, our property crimes overall did decrease over the past year. And one decrease that we are proud of, that we've been tracking for quite a few years, were the incidents of domestic violence. We actually saw our first downward trend in several years, so that was positive. We did experience several other increases in more serious personal crimes, but we are trying to address those as best that we can as well. One big uptick that you did see were in arson-related cases, and very, very proud to say that a arsonist that had been plaguing the community here for multiple years was apprehended as a direct result of both patrol and our detectives this summer, and cleared up and put an end to many of these weed cases that we were confronted with. We did see a decline, obviously, in our traffic-related stops. We had a significant drop, but our traffic division was cut, and our officers were down by 20%. So that has a ripple effect in regards to the ability to be proactive in traffic enforcement. Working with the city manager, I think you'll see a new accomplishment that we'll be reporting in 2020, and I briefed him on earlier today. Because of working through ADOT and the systems that they have available, we should be able to, by this summer, have full electronic citations available to not only our traffic officers, but all patrol. So we hope to be able to see a significant uptick in that over the course of the next year. Our arrests did also drop slightly, but continue to remain fairly consistent, with over 2,000 arrests between adults and juveniles. But with some of the challenges, I'm very proud of the accomplishments that we had this past year, and as you're well aware, we became one of the first agencies in the state to receive the A-LEAP accreditation. Most of the agencies, as they applied for that, go through a 2-year self-assessment. Very proud that we were able to accomplish that in 11 months. We were one of the 3 first agencies to receive that accreditation, and a 4th now has joined us. Lake Havasu City successfully completed their program in January of this year. We're now up to 21 agencies across the state, so 25% of the law enforcement agencies are now part of the program, and we know of many more that are interested and will be coming on board as well, but we're pleased to be one of the pioneers there. The other thing that's very important to us, working with Chief Rhodes in regards to this, we were able to this past year implement SPIDER. It's a customer service survey that looks at how we provided our services. We're the first community with this company that actually has an all-discipline survey. They primarily have been law enforcement related. We were the first one to take on dispatch and fire as well, so we led the way with that. And Mr. Foggin, last council meeting, provided an overview of the citizen survey to each of you in regards to how people felt about the services. You may recall 4 out of 10 people actually indicated that they had contact with a city employee. This survey, very proud to say that you've got 100%. When we are completed with a call, they receive a text message with a very brief survey in regards to dispatch, fire, and police and how they interacted. And out of those right now, we're achieving a 97% customer satisfaction rate, which for law enforcement services, that's phenomenal. And I'm extremely proud of our staff and the service that they provide and the professionalism that they carry through. With those cases also that I'm very proud of and want to highlight is our clearance rate. All of our major crimes are investigated by our detective bureau. They do the follow-up because of the detail and the comprehensiveness of the cases. National average right now for clearing major crimes is 62%. The Kingman Police Department, I'm very proud to say we're at 83% clearance rate. That, again, is something that this community can be very proud of, where if bad things occur in our community, our rate of being able to identify, apprehend those involved, and make an arrest is extremely high compared to the rest of the country. With our challenges, one of the other things we turned a challenge into is an opportunity and achievement. We were the first department to actually partner with an out-of-country law enforcement agency with New Zealand. Our recruitment team all came forward and wanted to be part of helping to make KPD a better place. With that, we used the assistance of Colleen Haynes, our city PIO, to develop a new age recruiting effort, and we are seeing the results of that right now. As a matter of fact, our next testing in April, we have 33 applications that are on file for our quarterly testing. 26 of those have passed the initial review and will be invited to test. So we are seeing an uptick from what's going on, and we are definitely attracting candidates. I know they just recently, 2 weeks ago, attended the NAU Career Fair, and as a result of, I would say, our charismatic recruitment team and everything that they put forward, we have a young lady that's going to be testing that chose Kingman. Her father came forward and talked to our recruitment team, said, I don't know what you did, but she is convinced she needs to be a police officer in Kingman. So I'm very proud of what our team has done, the work of Colleen and everything, all-inclusive, to try and make a difference and turn a challenge into an opportunity and an achievement for us. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions as to the information that you did receive through our annual report.
Any questions or comments?
You know,
Mayor.
the only comment that I would like to make is on the accreditation. I think the accreditation, that demonstrates to the whole community a certain level of commitment and dedication to what you guys do, and I'm very proud of that, and I know that the community is too, so just great job.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And one of the things with accreditation I didn't mention is there's 174 statewide standards, which is great. We can write the policies to do that. But what you actually have to do through accreditation is prove that you are doing what you say you're doing. And with that, we had to gather 545 proofs and data showing that, in fact, we do meet and exceed national best practices.
Your leadership, not just in getting the Kingman KPD credited, but service in this state. So your work has just been invaluable, and we appreciate it very much. And recruiting, which has always been an issue for the city, and so to hear that it's getting such positive response, and it's very delightful. So thank you and your team for that, and also Colleen. Yes, Councilor
Thank you.
Staley.
Had last year, these numbers are amazing, and 97% approval rating for people that probably aren't always getting exactly what they want, but they were still happy with the way they were treated, says so much about our police department and how much you are valued in our city. So just thank you for your hard work. I appreciate it, and going to miss seeing you up here, Chief.
Well, thank you. I've been very blessed and fortunate to have a phenomenal team, and they do a great job day in and day out. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our final report will be the prisoner release review.
Well, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, it's an honor to be back in front of you again. This issue was brought forward recently, and working with City Attorney Carl Cooper, I wanted to be able to provide a brief overview for you in regards to what we've actually identified in regards to some of our challenges. And one of the things that did come up is a challenge we face when a prisoner is released is we lose the authority and the ability to control their movement. And it was brought up about La Paz County, and that's an excellent example. Years ago, when we were faced with the increasing costs with the Mojave County Jail, we researched other opportunities and cost-saving measures. And we did, for a while, working through the municipal court, utilize the La Paz County Jail. And we were able to actually overcome the transportation issue, because at that point, La Paz was a primary housing unit for federal prisoners. So they were running weekly transports from Kingman to La Paz with individuals that were housed based upon federal charges. We were able to take advantage of that, and we would transfer those individuals either their last day of confinement or close to their last day of confinement, so that we still had the legal authority to bring them back to Kingman. We no longer have that ability, nor does Bullhead, Havasu, or other agencies that bring those individuals in. Once a judge orders their release, we no longer can control where they go. So that has become a real challenge for us. The other thing that we became aware of that I wasn't that familiar with is a program that's been instituted in California called Transition Assistance Program. And what they will do with that is, in individuals that are down on their luck or transient in nature, they will fund a Greyhound bus ticket to get them to a community nearby or their closest Greyhound depot. Well, we're the closest Greyhound depot coming out of California, which happens to be located at Crazy Fred's truck stop on Route 66. Again, very close proximity to the downtown area. So that's another challenge that we were not aware of that we were encountering out there that we're trying to work through as well. Kyle, did you have?
Sure, I could just jump in on that section right there. I was doing a little bit of research on that project, and there's a number of cities in the West that are exporters. And the program is supposed to actually be a good program, and ultimately those programs really are good programs. They're supposed to put some of these folks that are being transported in contact into communities that they have folks that can help them and can receive them, but I know that's not always what happens. So a lot of times the best interests are great, but that sometimes that kind of falls through. Because that's the issue with that program. Because I know that in the past the courts have kind of frowned on the bus ticket to the next city. So ultimately, I'd say their argument is going to be, well, we're making sure that they're receiving the services, and we're doing our due diligence to push them along. But it doesn't always happen that way. So.
But what I would like to touch on are some of the opportunities and what we see as long-term solutions for the problems that we are encountering down there. In the last several months, the sheriff's office has been able to employ a civilian caseworker right in the jail, because one of the things that we are very well aware of is the bulk of the inmates that are within the jail system are there based upon either substance abuse or mental health disorders. So how can we better serve those individuals that will also help the community? This caseworker now is involved with those that are suffering from opioid disorder or some other substance abuse disorder, getting them handed off, a warm handoff to some of the treatment programs that are available in our community. The jail has gone as far as to say, we will transport them if they can identify a treatment program for them to get involved in. Even though they don't have the control over them, the individual is willing to go, they will transport them from the jail to that location to get them enrolled and hopefully involved with that substance abuse program. That's a huge step that was not available to us 6 months ago. And many of us participated earlier in February with a strategic planning session looking at mental health court and what we can do to best house. Because unfortunately, with the closing of many of the mental health facilities, the jails have taken on that role. And these individuals really don't belong in that kind of environment. So over 2 days we spent at the sheriff's office working through what's known as the sequential intercept model. And that's how can we better identify these individuals in the beginning all the way through the process and getting them channeled through. So what we were looking at is what programs do we have available, where are our gaps, and how can we collectively fill those gaps. And there were about 45 of us in that room, and we worked through and identified 5 different intercept models to get things moving. And I can tell you, this wasn't just let's get together for 2 days, talk about things, and everybody goes away and everything sits on the shelf. They actually tasked out all of these different intercepts, and meetings are now occurring and changes are occurring as to how we can better identify and get individuals in the right direction from the very beginning of a call into dispatch before it actually gets through the entire court process. So I think when we look at this issue, yes, we do have a problem with some of those releases, but I really believe with what we've been able to put in place in the last 6 months and what's coming with this program, we're going to be able to better serve these people and our downtown by getting them the true help that they need for the substance abuse and or their mental health disorder that they might be dealing with. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions, comments?
Sure, I'll make a comment since this was my item. Thank you for that. That does give us some hope. I'm still a little. I wish there was some way we could work with the county and the sheriff if if they have citizens that are from Bullhead or Lake Havasu, getting them back. And I know they do have transports on certain days to get people to the court in Bullhead and back to the jail. So there's some way, if they could just help us out, and if they're going that way and there's somebody being released, just to help get them back to their city so they're not stuck here. I think that probably a little bit more could be done on that and on their end, just to help keep people from being stranded in downtown. And I'm really surprised to hear about the Greyhound out at Crazy Fred's, because that's quite a distance. I mean, you're really just dropping somebody off in the middle of nowhere. There are no services out there. I ride my bike out to Crazy Fred's. That's quite a hike back up that hill into town. So, and it's dangerous, and there's no sidewalks. So somebody on foot walking into Kingman, I mean, it's just really a disservice to those people. So it saddens me to hear that. Forward to make sure that we're kind of tackling this issue, and hopefully people follow through on plans to help people get the mental health care they need or the treatment, addiction treatment.
And the M-STEP organization, which you're well aware of, just
Yeah.
recently did receive a significant grant, and we're working to try and expand the treatment options that are available here. And it's the first opportunity that we've really had to put many of the ideas that we've had into place. So I would hope that within the next year, we'll begin to see the effects of all of those programs working together.
Great. Thanks, Chief.
Other questions? Again, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you,
Appreciate
Council.
it. Our next order of business, announcements by mayor, council members, city manager. Limited to announcements, board and commission liaison reports, availability and attendance at conferences and seminars. Manager Foggen.
Thank you, Mayor. Really only the weekly or biweekly census update. You've seen the efforts that we've been making to get the word out to our children and their parents. I'm grateful for your willingness to recognize them tonight, so thank you for that. In our continuing effort, we had representatives from the Mexican consulate here today who were meeting with our Mexican citizens down at Locomotive Park, encouraging them to participate in the census as part of their efforts to help Kingman and be counted. And it was wonderful to have them willing to do that. So the work for census continues to go on, and just to remind everybody that it will be probably next week that the postcards will start landing in people's mailboxes. And there's 3 really easy ways to take care of your census and answer those 9 questions, and that is with the paper census, or even easier through your phone, or just on the internet. You'll be given excuse me, a specialized number that you type in that's attached to your address, and takes, I would guess, based on my knowledge, it would be 10 minutes or less. So just encouraging people to take part in that, and just reminding them it is in the Constitution that we be counted as a nation, and we want our fair representation, and we don't want our tax dollars that we're already paying going to Phoenix or somebody else. So I'll get off my soapbox now.
Just a quick commission liaison report. The municipal they had a very good discussion, and there will be an item, I think, that will be up for us here in the near future regarding water rate study. Tina Moline gave a really good presentation. They were diligent and they worked really well and had some good insight, so it was enlightening.
Thank you. We'll look forward to that. Okay, I have just a few things. First of all, last week, I was able to go to Phoenix twice. The first time was to give testimony to the Appropriations Committee on Representative Cobb's 2 water bills, and was able to represent the city's support for her bills. And even though this was an informational hearing, a Board of Supervisors for a rural management area, and that could be a RMA for an aquifer or just a sub-basin, depending on the need. But anyway, they were there was good testimony from a number of people, including Supervisor Watson and others. But these bills will not go further this session. Then I want to thank Manager Foggin and Vice Mayor and Councilor Staley, who were able to join. We were all able to join me and go to Phoenix again on Thursday for Legislative Day. And again, this is part of the work that's important in advocating for our city for legislation that is of benefit to us. And it's an opportunity. We met with Senator Borelli. We also heard from the League of Cities and Towns on the bills that were of interest to us. And our intergov, Colleen Haynes, was, she's been keeping us all informed as we go through our city council meetings. But this is where we get to hear from the League and how they are advocating for us and or the issues that we can help at the legislative level. So I think that next week, back to the census, advocating for people to please participate in the census. And I think not long after that, the city managers are all going to get together.
We did ours last week. Mayor, we did ours last week. Oh, you did yours last? Yeah, yeah.
Keep it up.
Okay, I'm
I thought
asking
you
for a
did.
second time. I just want to say also to
That's
Councilor Staley, congratulations on your award. But for people that are watching, people that don't know, we're actually sitting up here with 2 women that have made history. So our mayor and Jamie, Councilor Staley, and you guys are both deserving of that. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. So the last item is council requests for future reports and updates. Are there any requests? Okay, Councilor Staley.
I would just like an update on where we are at with the White Cliffs Trail expansion.
I'd like to have an update to council on the progress of the property maintenance code enforcement in high-traffic tourism areas. I know we approved that quite some time ago, and I'd just like to know how that's going, especially in the downtown area and along Gasoline Alley. And then the other thing I'd like to have an update on is the tour bus situation. Going to the last Economic Development Advisory Commission meeting, it's to chase or recruit these tour companies, the large, the small, the the medium size and have them come into Kingman, especially to downtown Kingman, in light of the fact that we've just permitted or approved some parking for the buses.
It's already scheduled.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, I have nothing for that item, so I would entertain a motion.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Good job.